I turn it over to our MC, Jose Dorado, I'd like to just welcome everyone on behalf of Block by Block Organizing Network. We are a district-based, citywide organization working for One Oakland. And we welcome your interest. There's a sign-up sheet there. If you haven't already given us your email, please do. You'll get our announcements. If you'd like to join, you can talk to the people at the table. We welcome your membership as well. A few just housekeeping things. The women's room is down that hallway and the men's room is down that little hallway. We are going to go until 8:30. We can't go beyond 8:30 because we have a few announcements that have to be made, a little bit of business at the end, and we do have to leave at 9 o'clock. We only have this room only until 9 o'clock. So I hope that you will be understanding about that. And the format is going to be that you got some cards when you came in, and we're going to be taking questions on cards, and a couple of people are going to sort them so that we won't have duplicates. And Jose will use those cards in the second part of the program. The first part is presentations from our speakers, and I'm going to now turn this over to Jose Dorado.
Buenas noches todos. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Antonio Dorado. I'm a member of the Public Safety Committee of the Block by Block Organizing Network. And first off, I'd like to thank our four panelists very much for taking the time to join us and educate us. And hopefully at the end of tonight, we'll have at least the beginning of some ideas of how the community, that is us, that pay our taxes, can direct our time, energy, and money toward reading this horrendous criminal activity. So after viewing the video, there's a couple of sayings that comes to mind. One of them was from Gandhi, and he said, "The true measure of any society will be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members." And the second one you've probably seen on a bumper sticker: "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." So let's pay very close attention to what these fine women have to say, because they have been at the forefront of the battle against this problem. That's in our faces. Let's talk about that. Right this second, there are children walking the streets, exploited children, enslaved children, brainwashed children walking the streets right this moment and being exploited. So that's what's the part that should really make us so outraged, is it's right in our faces, and we should do something about it, figure out what we need to do. So let me just, Nancy O'Malley, who you saw in the video, sends her regrets. She very seldom gets sick, but unfortunately got sick tonight, and she's going to be very, very ably represented by Jennifer Madden from the DA's office. She did an op-ed piece where we talked about that January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and she's going to be partnering with Missy on this problem. And it should not escape us that Oakland is the epicenter of this human trafficking situation that we see. And it's not just 13-year-olds, as Ursi Joyner talked about, it's down to 12 and 11 that people see every day. So she ends her op-ed piece with, "If you see something, say something." Let me go quickly down the bios.
Where was that published, Jose?
Sorry?
Where was your piece published?
It was, I believe it was in the Tribune. Yeah. Real quickly, Joe Lum, right here, will get you, if you don't have a card right now, Joe Lum and Susan back there, let them know, raise your hand so that you've got a card, and you can write your questions on, because that'll be the second part of this program. So there's a card needed over here. If you have a question, raise your hand so that Joe and Susan can collect them. And they're going to give them to Donna Link over here. You see, I can do this quickly, so forgive me if I'm speaking quickly. Jennifer S. Madden is Assistant 1 at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office and currently heads the Juvenile Human Exploitation and Trafficking HEAT initiative. She is the assigned prosecutor in the recently established Girls Court at Juvenile Justice Center, where she works with sexually exploited girls and girls at risk for exploitation. She is passionate about educating the public and other professionals about the human trafficking epidemic and is committed to the safety and development of the young women. Prior to her work with juveniles, Jennifer prosecuted adult offenders for 13 years, including an assignment vertically handling felony domestic violence cases. Jennifer is equally passionate about service to the African American legal community. Over the last 15 years, she dedicated many hours to the Charles Houston Bar Association and the California Association of Black Lawyers, where she served as president of both organizations. She continues to be an active member of both groups and has mentored a number of young lawyers. Originally from the Central Valley, she moved to the Bay Area in 1989 to attend college at UC Berkeley. She obtained her Bachelor's of Arts degrees in African American Studies and Political Science and remained at UC Berkeley to attend law school. In her free time, she loved to travel and is committed to volunteering in the community. In the recent past, Jennifer served on the board of the YMCA Urban Services Division, serving East and West Oakland, and trekked in last August to build houses for Habitat for Humanity. Jennifer is most proud of the long-standing 15-year commitment to Charlotte Maxwell Complementary Clinic, which provides alternative therapies to low-income women with cancer, many of whom are women of color. Thank you for being here, Jennifer. Sergeant Holly Joshi is currently serving as Chief of Staff at the Oakland Police Department and has been a sworn member of the OPD since 2001. After several years of patrolling the most challenging beats in Oakland, she was selected as a member of the Crime Reduction Team, a street-level narcotics task force assigned to target street-level drug dealing and associated violent crimes. While there, she began working in an undercover capacity, which led to joint projects with the DEA and Secret Service, and ultimately led to her work with the Vice and Child Exploitation Unit. In 2008, she was transferred to the Vice and Child Exploitation Unit as a full-time investigator and worked on hundreds of cases involving prostitution, pimping, human trafficking, and the exploitation of children. After working as an investigator, she was selected to be the department's media spokesman. In 2011, she was promoted to sergeant and returned to the Vice and Child Exploitation Unit as the supervisor. With the Vice Unit, she worked on many successful projects, including partnering with the community and city attorney to close down 2 problem motels, writing a crime plan for a state human trafficking grant, and increasing the department's partnership with the FBI by securing the first joint OPD-FBI human trafficking task force. She was recognized this year for her work by the Oakland Police Department with a Medal of Merit and by the Oakland County District Attorney's Office with the Distinguished Officer Award. Sergeant Josie has qualified as an expert in the topics of prostitution, pimping, and human trafficking in Alameda and Contra Costa County courts. She teaches nationally on the topic and has been a guest speaker for Sandra Swanson, Jackie Spire, and the UC Berkeley, Goldgate University, and the University of San Francisco and Stanford. Thank you for being here, Holly. Noah Brantley is one of the co-founders and current executive director of MISI, an organization developed in 2007 to advocate and facilitate the empowerment and inner transformation of sexually exploited youth by holistically addressing their specific needs. Prior to her directorship at MISI from 2001 to 2007, Noah directed the Parenting and Youth Enrichment Department, where she developed the first community case management model for commercially sexually exploited children in Alameda County. Simultaneously, she served as a volunteer on-call CSEC advocate for the Oakland Police Department's Special Victims Unit from 2005 to 2007. Noah's hard work and perpetual vigilance has brought both focus and concrete resources to this chronically underserved and largely unrecognized population of victimized children. Not only has Noah been a pioneer in Alameda County for CSEC service development, she has also helped set the foundation for much of the CSEC legislative and policy efforts. And CSEC is Commercial Sexually Exploited Children. Additionally, Noah spends countless hours providing trainings and presentations throughout Alameda County, California, and the nation. She has also taught innovative aftercare methods for abuse survivors to individuals from around the nation and the world. Noah has been awarded the Bay Area Regional Jefferson Award by CBS 5, the Walk Against Domestic Violence Community Service Award by Safe Place Oakland, the Ruby Award and the Best of Women and Girls Award by Optimist International, and the Angel Award for Community Service by the Take Wings Foundation. Noah possesses both passion and unfailing commitment to her community, her world, and to the young people she serves. Thank you for being here, Noah. And last but not least, I hope I say your name correctly, Golia Labian. Golia, okay. Yeah, okay. Golia Yang serves as the program manager at Bontai Montestre is a youth development asset building organization that is non-judgmental of young Southeast women who are engaged in or at risk of sexual exploitation. We seek to provide a resource that support their healthy development through self-empowerment and self-determination. Thank you for being here. Go ahead. So what we're going to do is have two questions that we're going to ask, and each of our panelists are going to take 5 minutes to answer them. We're going to ask the first question and have each one of the panelists answer, and then we'll go to the second question. After we're done, then we'll get the questions that Don has screened from the 3x5 cards and ask those for the next 45 minutes. So let's get into it right now. And let's start with Jennifer. How do you view the issue, and how does your organization deal with it?
So, can everyone hear me? I see the issue really as being an epidemic, and what our organization tries to do not only is educate the community about the issue and engage the community, but we've also developed a number of programs that we have internally to deal with the issue, which I will talk about in a minute. But I think the main thing is to really initially have an initial internal understanding of what human trafficking is. A lot of people, even law enforcement, some law enforcement or people who work in my office, when we talk about human trafficking, people always have this image of something that's happening overseas, not something that's happening here. And I think statistics will bear out that the two main hubs in this country are Oakland, California, and Atlanta, Georgia. And you can go down any number of neighborhoods and see girls actually as young as 9 and 10, not 12 and 13, but 9 and 10. Some boys as well, but I haven't really seen that much in my experience for being exploited. What Nancy O'Malley has done and the district attorney before her is really recognize that these children are victims and treated them as such in many regards. We have an established human exploitation and trafficking unit. There is an adult side which prosecutes the pimps and exploiters, and then there's also a juvenile side, which is what I run. As far as the juvenile side, I am the dedicated prosecutor who handles girls court, which is overseen by 2 of the judges in juvenile. I'm the dedicated prosecutor who deals with all the cases of girls who are exploited or also at risk for exploitation. And the viewpoint that our office is taking is that we don't just want to look at the youth who are actually already being exploited, but we want to look at those young men and women who are also at risk. And I think this is really taking a very forward-thinking approach, because many times when I go to other counties or talk to district attorneys' offices in other areas, one, they don't necessarily treat these kids as victims, and two, they don't see the value of looking at those who are at risk and trying to be preventative. And what I've learned in the 3 years that I've done this is that when you have intervention at the earliest point possible, you can help these kids to actually get out of this life and to have productive lives as adults, and to really minimize the risk and the danger that these young ladies face. So what I also do is I've also been integral in establishing what is called the Young Women's Saturday program, which is a program that occurs on Saturday. It is a 12-week program. We just finished our 5th cohort, and this is a program where some of the girls who are on probation are referred. We have professional facilitators who talk to the girls about various things from health issues to relationships. They graduate from the program. We just had a graduation last month. And it really is a way to educate the girls and to also build up their self-esteem. And we get feedback from the girls after each cohort to find out what is working and what isn't working. We raise funds privately. We're always welcome. We always welcome any support that the community can give. But we vigorously try to raise money and to support the girls, feed them, give them bus passes, and also to give them educational material. We also have a weekly case review, which was started in January of 2011, and I attended the very first meeting and still continue that. And what we do is we look at girls who are in the system and also girls who are referred to us, who are being exploited, who are also at risk, to develop actual safety plans. For example, if they're testifying against the pimp, what is going to happen in terms of their safety? How are they getting to court? How are they getting home? What are the actual risks that are going on? And we have evaluated almost 400 girls, including 3 boys. On the adult side, we have what is called Heat Watch, so Human Exploitation and Trafficking Watch. If you do www.heat-watch, you can actually look at the programs that the Heat Watch does. This is a toolkit that we developed, which has a lot of statistics in terms of what's going on in our county and what we're doing as an agency. The 5-point plan includes community engagement, the aggressive prosecution of pimps, law enforcement training, which we do frequently, providing services to the victims, and also engaging policymakers and legislators.
Thank you. Next up, Ali Joshi.
I want to tell everyone here how much we all appreciate you being here tonight. I think that the statement that Mr. Dorado repeated, the Gandhi quote, which is, "You can judge a nation on the way that it treats its children," is really important. And so if we're going to be working off that statement tonight, I would say all of you are really amazing people who are here to learn more about how we can impact this very, very important issue in our community. So the very first question is, how do I see this issue? And how does my agency see this issue, and how do we deal with it? And I do want to let you guys know that when I first came in contact with this particular issue, I was like many Americans, I was in complete denial, and I thought that the issue of prostitution was, number one, a quality of life issue, and number two, a victimless crime. I had no inkling of human trafficking going on anywhere in this country, let alone in the city of Oakland, which I grew up in and still live. Even as a police officer, as he was reading my bio, I was just thinking back to when I was a police officer, a young police officer, and I was working in the crime reduction team, and I was so focused on narcotics enforcement. And the way that I came in contact with this issue was an absolute fluke, and it was a sergeant who was running a vice operation and asked me to pose in an undercover capacity as a street-level prostitute. And I said no, because standing at 17th International Boulevard with heels on in the freezing cold was not my idea of fun, especially when I was thinking I'm going to go after misdemeanor adults who were engaged in activity that they all wanted to be engaged in. And the only reason I did it that evening was because the other female officer did not have a cover unit, and there were a room full of, almost this many police officers waiting to get their overtime, and I didn't want to have to cancel the operation. Needless to say, I went out there, and stood at 17th Ave and International, and two things happened to me that completely changed the course of my life. Number one, I was scared. And you all know that cops, we don't like to admit that we're scared, right? And so I was scared. All of the drug dealers that I had come in contact with, all of the murder suspects that I had arrested, were not equal to the intimidation and the aggressiveness that I saw that one night, my first night at 17th and International with the pimps. The second thing that happened is I absolutely unequivocally realized that the girls standing across the street from me were victims, and that I was a grown woman with a gun on my hip and 20 police officers waiting around the corner to back me up, and I was just pretending to do this. And the girls standing across the street from me that weren't even women yet, that this was their real life. And from that moment on was a quest to learn more. And so fortunately, the Oakland Police Department has been involved in this battle for over 10 years. And we've been with the District Attorney's Office and with these ladies to my left who we look at not as just advocates, but as our partners. We've been on the forefront of this issue, and we're seen as leaders in the country on this issue. Now, that doesn't mean we're perfect, but it means that we're really trying hard and we're very progressive in our thinking patterns, as Ms. Jennifer Babb was just explaining. So, we really see this issue as it takes a village, it takes partnerships. The police play an important role in rescuing the victims and identifying victims, but we absolutely can't do it by ourselves because this is that type of a battle. It's going to take all of us. So again, I appreciate you guys. But I think the most important things that the Oakland Police Department does is, number one, recognizing victims. Locating and recognizing victims. And that comes in all forms in this city, unfortunately, right? We're a large urban environment. We have a population of high-risk girls and children due to some socioeconomic challenges and some of the situations that our families here find themselves in, right? And we all know what all of those challenges are. So we have a victim-rich environment, unfortunately. And so it's our job to find those victims, whether they're in motels, hotels, online, on International Boulevard, in a brothel, in a massage parlor, wherever those girls are. We're putting together proactive operations on a regular basis to locate those victims. Tips coming in from the community members, tips coming in from the District Attorney's Office, from advocacy groups. So I think that really is one of our number one missions, and that is to locate and rescue the victims. The second thing that we really have been focused on more and more now is the preventative aspect, which is identifying those high-risk girls like Ms. Jennifer was talking about, who haven't been exploited yet, but are at absolutely great risk for being exploited. And what the statistics show is that the large majority of girls that are the most at risk are going to be runaways. And so we've implemented a high-risk runaway program, which on the second time a girl runs away in the city of Oakland, she's flagged as being at risk for trafficking. Because we know that within the first 24 hours of her being gone from her home, she's going to be approached to sell sex, either by a pimp, an exploiter, or by a John, a customer wanting to buy that sex. And so if we can flag her and pair her with services to at least educate her on the true dangers of her at-risk behavior, and then try to identify what exactly it is that she's running away from at home and try to fix some of those issues. So I think that those are really our two roles. That is prevention and addressing the current victims. And she's shaking my end time card at me, so I won't continue, but thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Noah Brantley from Mississippi. Noah.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for having me here this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you on this topic. I also think it's a very important topic that it's important that the whole community become educated on. You know, the city of Oakland, for those of you who don't know, and I know that we all have different exposure to this issue, but the city of Oakland really, in terms of the national picture, like Jennifer said, is known as a red light city district for child sex trafficking. So when you think of foreign countries and they have a red light district where people are being bought for sex and it's very much kind of out in the open and happening, you know, in epidemic proportions, well, the city of Oakland is a red light district city in our nation for the buying and selling of children. And it is something that, you know, we really all have to become involved in as a community. That's really Missy's view is that, it's not something that law enforcement or social services can respond to alone. It's something that all of the major city and county organizations need to be involved in, as well as service providers, faith-based organizations, and the private business sector as well. It really is a huge issue, and it's run by a network of individuals, and it requires an entire community response. Trust me, there's not enough prosecutors or police officers to respond to the number of, especially with the internet, just the pure number of ads for sex of children that are being put up right now while I'm talking to you. So it requires a complete community response. I also think we need to consider the fact that in the city of Oakland, there's a really high rate of poverty, a lot of generational poverty, and a lot of the individuals that are perpetrating on these young ladies feel like they have no other opportunities for economic sustainability. And if they're doing it already, I say prosecute them. But I think we have a social responsibility to look at that and figure out, for the ones who are not yet doing it, but that are at risk of becoming perpetrators, how do we make sure there's opportunities identified to them so that they don't see this as their only viable option for economic sustainability? Because many of them are just the counterpart in terms of their poverty level and their generational trauma to the very victims that we're here talking about tonight. So we just really, see that in terms of Missy, that we have to really take a holistic approach to addressing this issue. Also, realizing that these children really do represent the most vulnerable and desperate children in the city of Oakland and across our society. They're children who have already been abused, especially sexually abused. They're children who are struggling with homelessness and extreme poverty. They're children in many cases who don't have one single adult, not an auntie, brother, uncle, father, nobody that will protect them or support them, which makes them very, very, very vulnerable to not only the seductive, but the very violent tactics of child sex traffickers. And so, it really is our responsibility as a community to stand up and to protect these children. If we don't do this, nothing in our city is going to work. If there's children being sex trafficked in our cities, we can forget about everything else. And so it's really important for us to respond. The way we deal with it through Missy is through direct services and training. And our training is really focused on systemic change. And so our direct services include 4 programs that serve both victims of sex trafficking that are ages 11 through 19, as well as those highly at risk. We serve an average of about 90 girls a month, about 250 girls over the course of the year, through partnerships with social services, probation, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and the City of Oakland Measure Y, as well as a host of private foundations and donors, because again, it takes a whole host of people to respond to this issue. In terms of how the community can respond to it and what we see the community's role as, number 1, to further educate. So whatever you learn here tonight about this issue, educate others, because there's a huge stigma around prostitution, and many people see these as child prostitutes. And many people are confused because they're arrested. The bottom line is that they cannot legally consent to sex in the state of California because they're not 18. Prostitution, 647B, being the illegal act of consenting to sex for money. So therefore, there is no such thing as a child or a teen prostitute. And District Attorney O'Malley and myself have plans to host a meeting to bring together a group of legislators and advocates from around the state to really talk about an alternative system for these children victims outside of the juvenile justice system where you can still serve and protect them. So I really educate people because there's a lack of education. I train judges, probation officers, social workers, doctors, therapists, every day who interface with these children all the time and do not know how to identify them because they know nothing about this issue except for it happens in other countries. Financial support. It takes money to do the work. So programs like the Heat Watch program, like the Saturday program, like Missy, like Bay Area Women Against Rape, like West Coast Children's Clinic, these are all programs in your local area that are working with hundreds of these children every year, and it takes money to serve the children. And so, we need money. I have to raise $850,000 a year to run my organization, to provide the services that we provide that I described. Also, you can support through volunteer and in-kind services. There's all kinds of in-kind services that can really save organizations a lot of money. The next thing is mentorship. If you have the internal and financial resources to be a foster care parent, especially for a teenager, it is deeply needed. If you can volunteer directly at a Boys and Girls Club, at a group home, anywhere there's an at-risk child, It is deeply needed. And also, if you can become a mentor, one-on-one mentor, we have a mentorship program through Missy. Last but not least, legislation. We have to be able to change policy in order to move this issue forward. And I have to say that the legislation is really tied into research, which is sorely lacking. But really getting involved in legislative efforts. These children should not be arrested. In several states, they have the Safe Harbor Act, but they haven't all worked to just say, don't arrest them. That's why we want to be more innovative here. But they shouldn't be arrested, so we need to work on that. We need mandatory training for individuals that are coming in contact with these children every day. And we need more resources allocated. We appreciate President Obama's recent allocation. I think it was $23 million, but that wouldn't even help the city of Los Angeles, so we just need more. We need more resources. So thank you, and sorry for going over.
Thank you, Noah. And last but not least, Goria.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming again. I'm not going to repeat what the past panelists have mentioned. I'll just go straight into what Bante Say does. So we were formed in 2004 after, seeing a high number of Southeast Asian young women. And when I say Southeast Asian, it's Cambodian, Mien, Lao, Vietnamese, young women who are being sexually exploited. And so in 2004, there was a high number of young women who became involved in sexual exploitation. And so there was a bunch of community workers, mental health specialists, who came together to form Bante Sre because there wasn't anything for Southeast Asian young women. And so now what we do is we realize that, a lot of times the young women, and as it was mentioned in the video, is that a lot of times they're looking for love, whether it's like a relationship, whether it's having love from your family. And what they're facing is a generation gap, where their parents show love in a different way and they're learning how to love in an American way, right? And so what we do is we run a program called SAWS, and it's our cooking program where we actually provide a neutral space for Southeast Asian women elders to come in to share their refugee experience and to talk about the struggles that they have gone through. And this is an opportunity to foster intergenerational relationships because that's something that is missing in the young women's lives. We also provide case management. A lot of it is really getting them re-enrolled into school or a GED program, or pushing them to really think of an alternative job, versus just resorting to selling their bodies. And that's another thing that I forgot to mention, is that our young women are not system connected. So they're not coming from the juvenile justice system. They're not coming from foster care. They're not in the shelters. And a lot of it is because word of mouth. Like, we've worked with young women and they have friends who are also in the game. And so because the young women that we work with trust us, then they have their friends come in as well. And that's the difficult part, is like really finding where our young women are really located. Just recently, I got word that there are young women working in these cafes, and that's something that, I think about my safety. Like, can I really go into a Vietnamese cafe and do something? No, I cannot, And so we, we work with them. We have a referral system where we work with the West Coast, we work with CHA, to also provide like professional mental health services. And then we also have a program where we educate the young women about their health, about creating healthy goals, about, what does it mean to be in a healthy relationship, whether it's with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your family, your friends. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does healthy relationship look like? And like really working through all that. Recently we did our healthy relationship workshop, and I was talking to them about I statements, and they laughed at me, because they're like, oh my God, that's so dumb. Like, why would we talk about I statements? Like, when you do this, I feel this way. They were laughing at me, and the reality is that because that is so different for them, they're so used to lashing out, they're so used to, just like getting angry and not having healthy communication, right? And so like really working through that. Like, it's not just a one-time workshop where they're gonna get it. It's a few workshops, it's a few conversations. So we do that, and we believe that, whether or not you're sexually exploited, it's important for young women to take ownership over their bodies. You know, they feel like the media owns their bodies, their parents, whoever it is, you know, they feel like somebody else owns their bodies except for themselves. And so really, you know, providing a space for them to feel like, you know what, I do have power over who I am and what I want to become and what I can do with my body. And so that's really important for the young women. Another thing I did want to mention too is that we are slowly trying to figure out how to work with parents because we've come across cases where parents want to automatically disown their kids because it brings shame to the family. No parent wants to say my child is sexually exploited. You know, so working with the parents as well to kind of educate them, letting them know this is probably the worst time to disown your kid. And so like really allowing them like also the process. The last thing I wanted to mention too is that, oh my God, it just like slipped my mind. There were so many things I wanted to say. I'll just end it at that for now.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Maria. The second question is one that I think is really, for me at least, the meat of this program, and that is, how do you see the community's role in overcoming the commercial sexploitation of minors? What is it that we actively and concretely can do?
So, education and awareness can take a lot of forms. Recently, actually there was a press conference today in which our office in conjunction with Missy and Clear Channel is doing a billboard and bus shelter campaign. And I have some examples to my right if you have a chance to look at it, where it really is educating people about the issue. The billboards are really focused to the community, and the bus shelters are really focused, as I understand, to girls who may be at risk in terms of giving them information if they are at risk to actually call and to get help and to find out where they can get resources. I think it's important, and I mean, you're obviously here so you care about the issue, is that the community really has to be educated about it, because like I said, I talk to many of my friends who are, you know, good, educated people, and you talk to them about human trafficking, and one, they have no idea that it's happening here, or two, they have a lot of the attitudes that people had about domestic violence 30 years ago. Well, why doesn't she just leave? She obviously likes it if she's doing it. No one's holding a gun to her head. And so people who I think are very well-intentioned don't really understand the complex issue. So I think coming to events like this, talking more to organizations, to advocacy organizations, if you see something, don't just look away. I think it's easy for people to, you know, when you're driving down San Pablo, when you're driving down East 14th, when you're driving down other areas, you see the girls, you see how they're dressed, you know something's going on, but what do most of us do? We just kind of keep on driving. So if you do have the money, if you do have the financial resources, if you do have the time, like Noah said, there are many organizations who can benefit. And the girls and the boys can also benefit from mentoring. I mean, if you look at the statistics in terms of who is being targeted, these are children who have already been traumatized in many ways, sexually, physically, emotionally. Many of the victims are in the foster care system or runaways or have mental health issues. So these are the most vulnerable of the vulnerable. So I think that what they need most is for us not to look away and not to be afraid to become engaged and involved.
So, first of all, let me just say that although this issue is devastatingly prevalent in this community, as Ms. Nola pointed out, I really believe in the power of Oakland. I think that the history books have shown that when Oakland decides to do something, we can do it. And so, just the first step in the process is making sure that everyone knows what's going on. So you all are here, but we have to get the word out. We have to tell 10 more people each. And I believe that once Oakland as a community is completely educated about it, then there will be a sense of urgency, right? Because we are a progressive city, and we are a city that's known for our ability to come together from grassroots efforts and make things happen. And so I'm very, very confident that that will happen one day. But the thing is that until everyone really understands the true issues that we're talking about, we're not going to really make much progress. So the very first thing the community can do is what exactly you're doing here tonight, and that's learning about the issue, really, really understanding the issue. And so I just want to make it, really, really crystal clear for all of us tonight that a sexually exploited minor, and even a sexually exploited woman, is not always going to present as a traditional victim. And so when we're talking about identification issues, she's not going to be waving a red flag at the police, at the district attorney's office, at advocates, or at any of you, most oftentimes to let you know that she's a victim, okay? And that is for most of the issues that we've been talking about, right? Either she hasn't realized her victimization, she's been so traumatized before her exploitation that she believes that the way that the pimp and the exploiter is treating her is love. So, as Ms. Brantley said so eloquently, children cannot consent to sex in this state or in this country, so there's no way that they can be consenting to selling sex. So just because of the stigma surrounding prostitution, once the money starts to change hands, we all start to get real confused as to who she is. So we just need to be really crystal clear that she's a victim, period, no matter how she's acting. Okay, and she's going to act out, and she's probably going to be rude, and she's going to cuss me out as the police, and sometimes she's going to cuss out the advocates in the DA's office as well. That does not speak to her being any less of a victim. In my mind, it speaks to the increased urgency in the rescue, because it means that her trauma is super deep and her pimp is very prolific. Because if he can be beating her and depriving her of her basic human needs, and she still wants to get away from me to go back to him, that means that's a bad dude. And he needs to be taken off the street before he can get to 10 or 15 more girls, right? And so, we could go on, all night with all of these very, very complex issues, but I think that your role is of the utmost importance. And there's no one role for the community. The community is involved in every single aspect of this fight. From the identification to the advocacy, to volunteering with Missy, to being a witness in the district attorney's case if there's something that you've seen, to partnering with the police department to successfully close down problem motels and hold businesses accountable, right? And we successfully did that over the summer. The City of Oakland, the Oakland Police Department, the City Attorney's Office, and the community came together in the San Antonio Park neighborhood and shut down the Problem Motel, the National, at 17th Avenue and International. Remember, going back, that was where my first experience was and my first exposure to this. And that was way back, in 2005. And so take us to 2013 and we were able to finally close it down. And I believe for sure that that was only made possible when the community decided that you guys had had enough in that neighborhood. The police alone, and with these ladies, we've been working on this issue and returning back to 17th Avenue and International and going to call after call after call at that motel of girls being raped and beaten and held for years. But it was when all of you decided you were outraged that it was closed down. And we repeated that same success at the hotel at 1st Avenue and East 12th. And that one was closed as well. And so the point of what I'm really trying to get at is that every single level of this issue involves the community. And so all of you know what your strengths are. And so if you're a great mentor, then that's what role you should play. I mean, if you're really, really a great witness and you feel comfortable working with the police, then that should be your role. I mean, if you have money, then that should be your role. I mean, whatever it is that you do it. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly. And Noah?
Okay, good. Since I see that I answered this question more generally before, I'm just such a little overachiever, it's ridiculous. Now I'll answer it more specifically and give you some very specific things that you can do. So one thing that you can do, if you're a small business owner, or you know a small business owner, or even a medium-sized business owner, Missy's just been funded to work with Not For Sale, and you can go on their website, notforsale.org, to develop an invention hub that will be in the city of San Francisco. That will be a training ground for human trafficking survivors to train them on job skills, that will create sustainable employment opportunities for them, not working at a minimum wage job or even a living wage job, maybe starting there, but they'll receive continued support through this hub to, be able to continue to increase their quality of life. And so we are definitely looking for partnerships with medium and small-sized businesses as placements for these individuals once they go through the core training program and then the extended either small business or medium-sized business training program. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing, as the ladies have said, is you can become a mentor. Our Lasting Links program is always looking for mentors. You can go on our website, www.missy.org, and follow the information to how you get connected with mentorship. The commitment is spending 2 hours a week with a young person who is a survivor of sex trafficking or at high risk, doing regular things like taking walks, taking a yoga class, going to dinner, just being a source of support and an example of regular healthy living. So you can definitely do that. There's intensive training and background clearance and clinical consultation that's involved in that, so you can learn more from our mentorship coordinator, Bhavna. There's also the Family Justice Center One Gala coming up on, I believe, January 25th. And so you can purchase tickets. That's a really great event, nice dinner, nice entertainment, usually a silent and live auction, and that helps support these overall efforts of both the DA's office and some of their partner organizations that live in the Justice Center. You can become a CASA advocate. That's a court-appointed special advocate. The court-appointed special advocate, and they can play a critical role in turning this around if they're educated on this issue. And we train them regularly. We just trained them at their statewide conference in Anaheim. My direct service manager did, and I train them on a regular basis. Love Never Fails developed a curriculum and has partnered with OUSD to deliver it to all 7th graders, but they don't have the funding to hire the facilitators. I believe they need $40,000. And you can go there online as well, Love Never Fails, and see where they're at with that. But it's, the partnership's in stone, the curriculum is developed, they need the funding now to implement it to all 7th graders, and it's prevention, and trust me, it's needed. Because almost every kid that goes to school in Oakland at some point has been recruited or attempt to recruit them. The Alameda County Attorney's Office is also going to be launching this poster campaign in businesses where it gives survivors or anybody the human trafficking hotline, and they're going to be looking for volunteers to partner with them to go out and talk to businesses across the city of Oakland. So that's another thing, or the county of Alameda actually. That's another thing that you could be involved in. You can go to both the MISTY website or the Heat Watch program website and then find various ways to be involved too, through the 5-prong approach and through things that we have on our website. You can also host your own community education event. You don't have to, know a lot. You can play more of a host role or a mediator role, and you can invite agencies in. There's a lot of agencies, not just us, that are willing to come out and talk about this issue. And you can also host a fundraiser, and you can host do something fun that you like to do with your friends. We do every year, we do a wine fundraiser, and it's fun, and people come, they do wine tasting, eat hors d'oeuvres, and we raise money. And then you can donate that money to a human trafficking effort. So even if you don't have the money to donate yourself, there's still ways to be involved. So those are just some really specific ways to be involved. And people are involved, it's really inspiring. Before I came here tonight, we received in the mail, and we received a lot of things, but just a testament to people that live in the city. From someone that lives here in the city of Oakland, who I won't name at this point, but she just sent a blind donation to Missy to support these girls for $14,000. And we didn't cultivate her or work with her. She just knows that the help is needed, and she lives in the city, and she did it. And a lot of us have the resources to help like this, but we hold on. I don't know what we're holding on for. You know what I mean? So, it's better to try to help, humanity and help people than it is to hold on. And then we hold on to a little bit too, right? I'm not just saying give it all away. But I'm saying, it is good to be able to help people and to help humanity and to use our resources for that, right? So I just encourage you to do any of these things, whether it's give resources, host an education event, become a mentor, it doesn't matter. Just get involved.
Thank you very much. And Gloria.
Yes. So I'm gonna keep mine short. Before I start, I want to mention that not all the young women who are sexually exploited that they have a pimp. Not all of them do. Sometimes they kind of sell themselves, because they feel like there's no money at home, parents are not making money, They gotta hustle for even like to provide lunch or whatever for their younger siblings. And so they kind of go and do 1 time, 2 time, and then they get caught up in the game. So that's also a reality, is that it's not just like what's happening on international, but it's also, you know, what's happening online, what's happening like at home, what's happening to them, what are the options or lack of options that are available to them, where sometimes they themselves feel like they have to resort to this. So this brings me to what I forgot to mention earlier, is that we partner, one of our biggest partners is with Asian Health Services, where we work with Dr. Kim Chang to identify young women who are sexually exploited that are coming in to seek, you know, reproductive health. And this has been really successful, and the Native American Health Center has started doing this as well. And if there's any doctors in the audience, or if you have any friends who are doctors that may want to learn more about how to implement like some kind of protocol in their centers or in their clinics or whatever it is that they do, I think it's definitely an opportunity